Welcome to Yoga Biz Camp with myself, Michael J. I'm a yoga business coach with 25 plus years of experience as a creative, a total tech geek, and a yoga business owner. Hey, Yoga Biz family. I am super thrilled to have my good buddy Loopspark John on the podcast today. John knows a lot about the industry. Him and I geek out a lot, and I'm thrilled to geek out with him on today's podcast. Welcome to another episode of Yoga Biz Camp. I'm thrilled to have a great colleague who I respect and have a great time with, John Homyk from Loopspark. Welcome, John.
Thank you so much, Michael. Excited to be here.
Now, John, you're not my norm. I don't have software companies on very often, but I'm such a fan of your product, and I'm such a fan of you that you just have so much knowledge in this industry that I'm just really thrilled to have you here. So I'm just going to read your bio first. John is a customer-focused entrepreneur with a passion for helping businesses thrive and deliver positive change in their communities. He has 10 years experience developing multiple SaaS companies and a former boutique fitness studio owner. In 2015, John's family opened Pure Barre Studio in Carlsbad, California. His wife, Katie, adopted various marketing and reporting tools to enhance the customer experience, but couldn't find a comprehensive CRM platform to suit their needs. In 2017, John founded Loopspark with his business partner, Luca, to help Katie and fellow studio owners scale their businesses, track staff duties, and free up time to spend on their passion and personal lives. Hey, John.
That's exactly what's brought me to today. Hey, Michael,
hey, John.
Excited to be here.
So I have to tell you, John, you are my first podcast guest live from my bathroom.
Interesting and honored, and I want to dive into that story a little bit more.
I got everything all set up this morning, green screen up, the whole work, checking out the microphones, and then the gardeners arrived. Every week the condo people come, but they seem to change days, and they're extremely loud. And then it was like scurrying to get my laptop all set up. So right now my laptop is on a stand and my microphone on the toilet as I am sitting on a big cushion in an area that's a little bit quieter. And then I got all set up in here, and my neighbors downstairs started playing really loud music that was coming through the bathroom. So I'm like, oh no. So I had to go downstairs and ask them to just turn it down a little bit. So anyway, we're here live from my bathroom for the first time.
That's awesome. I'm not the only John in this call, apparently, and some of the best music has been recorded in bathrooms. So I'm honored that maybe this is going to be a hit that we weren't expecting.
Oh, John, I'm so thrilled to have you here. I feel every time we get together, I could talk to you for 3 hours. You just really know the industry. Your product, Loopspark, the reason I'm a big fan of it is because it helps studio owners massively. So it does marketing through text, email, but also you have to-do functions and things like that. So it just helps studio owners so much, take a load off of them. And I just want to say I really appreciate your product. I think it's top of class out there.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate the feedback. And we do talk for a lot of time. Every time we get together and we geek out and talk about our customers and what's going on in the industry. And I really like to take some of the knowledge that you've been passing on to me and see how I can bring that to life through our product and really share that knowledge that is evolving from consultants like you that I speak with, and how can I use my tool to really push that knowledge and those learnings into successful campaigns for our shared clients. So it's been great working with you so far.
You too, John, you too. So I know there's a love story behind the product, but prior to that, you must have been a geek.
I have always been a geek. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't know about me is my entire journey to where I am today has been quite circuitous in circumstance. And I studied forestry in college.
Okay.
And took that degree and moved to Manhattan, where that was not really an applicable degree for me to have. And I think it was just a matter of falling in love with different pieces of where I was in life and finding out how to thrive in those. that got me to where I am today. Started out with me getting a typical desk job, figuring out what I loved about the advertising industry, breaking away from the desk job and trying to start my own agency, which I did and had success. And this is where I started to get into developing tools so that I could thrive even more. And after a while, I realized that there was a lot more benefits in not only creating these tools for myself, but packaging them up, selling them off to competitors. And instead of chasing the typical goals, I started selling the shovels. And that was a much more scalable and predictable model. So over the years, we've packaged up a number of SaaS products. Anything that was really helping me where I was at that point in life could also be shared with other people and help them thrive in a similar industry. And that's exactly what we're doing here with Loopspark. One thing that led to another that was not related: forestry to Manhattan, to meeting my beautiful wife, who is, funny enough, my first roommate in New York. We'll touch on that a little bit later. And diving into her passions and what I could do to really facilitate her. So we found ourselves leaving beautiful New York after we just bought our dream home there, thinking it was a temporary move to California, experiencing what we loved and what we didn't love about Southern California, and then taking a kind of turn in life to both leave our desk jobs. My wife wanted to stay in the dance industry, so we opened up a Pure Bar down here in a city that, quite honestly, we'd never heard about before, Carlsbad, California. And it was through this navigating my wife struggled and our little baby boy that was on the way that I found a little bit of space in my partner and myself's development roadmap where we could start focusing on our next tool. And quite honestly, it was not intended to be an enterprise level software. It was a love letter that we created for my wife so that she didn't give up on her business. And
so what were the struggles what was the struggles that she was having that you saw that you needed to help with?
Well, I think my wife found herself in the shoes and in a place that a lot of studio owners find themselves in, where we dive into this large financial investment and large time investment out of a drive that stems from passion, not from entrepreneurial experience or knowledge. And she opened the studio because she's comfortable behind a bar. She really likes working with other women. She likes building communities. She likes seeing the confidence in her friends grow. And none of this really aligns with a successful studio. It aligns with an incredible experience for her customers.
Yeah.
The way I like to look at it is an analogy to building a house. We had no clue what we were doing when we opened the studio. We just started throwing down a foundation and putting up and then we found ourselves in a place where we had to think quick. We had to pivot quickly. And all of this became even more complicated when we got pregnant and we were struggling to figure out what life would look like when we were no longer behind the front desk every day, greeting our customers when they came in, handing over the sales and the customer support reins to our staff and trusting that they were doing that in the way that we wanted to.
Yeah.
And long before we even created Loopspark, we adopted as many different automated tools and reporting tools and team management tools as we possibly could. And I think that was a really good first step in us just learning the importance of taking some of this workload off of our own plate and automating what we could and trying to analyze our data with the tools that we had available. So it was a great experience, but what we learned during that experience was none of these tools did exactly what we wanted them to do. They weren't customizable. They had limitations. They didn't talk to each other. They didn't allow us to really operate as a full team. And this is where we put our first toe development waters of Loopspark, just to build out that primary automation tool that then we expanded into reporting, to team collaboration, to staff assignment. And over about the first year of beta testing, we handed it off to a couple other franchisees through word of mouth. It grew extremely fast. We realized that this was more than just a love letter. It was actually a product that could help a lot of other studio owners. And that's when this became my full-time project, so to speak. And it's not really that we're curing cancer here. We're a much smaller component of a much bigger community that is out there doing excellent things in their own geos. So it's really nice to get those wins from our studio.
So just to clarify for the people listening, your product connects into other booking systems. So like MindBody, Fit Degree,
13,
Type
Mariana
13.
Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what's great about your product is it's triggered off by data points in those booking systems. But what I think is really powerful about your product is you recognize that it's not all about automations. The automations really help. But you have these to-dos in there that can be assigned to front desk, to different people, or to everybody, which for my studio owners solves the big problem of there's probably a different person on the front desk for different shifts. Right. And so it's like, there was spreadsheeting that before, but your product, literally that person can log in and see what their to-dos are for that day. But then the stuff that needs automating gets automated for example, like a text, but then the reply is human.
Exactly. And the way that I look at automations, it's not a complete replacement for the human being, right? And even AI is not going to be a complete replacement for the human being, especially in a market where studio owners, operators, staff members are very intimate with their clientele. This isn't a big box gym where we don't know each individual and their situation. Automations really just help save the time that we might be spending manually sending emails, evaluating what message might push that client a little bit further to the path of commitment. The text messaging obviously starts that conversation at the opportune time, but it's really the individual that's responding that keeps that conversation human. When it comes to to-dos, I think a lot of these are related to customer outreach. We need to call this person with this kind of message, or we need to be prepared to have this conversation with them when they walk through the doors today. But there are a lot of other operational components that around the studio to-dos can be helpful for. And for studio owners like ourselves that became more distant from the physical location, it allowed us to rest comfortably knowing that what we needed to be done every day was assigned, there was accountability, we could track that it was being completed. These prompts for phone calls or follow-ups, great. But also these little touch points of this individual is coming up on this massive celebration at our studio, whether it's an anniversary of their first visit or a major milestone celebration for their class counts. We wanted our front desk to always be prepared so that we didn't miss that opportunity to really celebrate our members. And we started setting up other to-dos that were just more operational in nature, right? What needs to be done in our front lobby on what days, and how are we assigning that, and how are we tracking that, and how is that really affecting how people are engaging with our merchandise in our lobby? So there are a lot of different ways that we use that to-do system.
But the other thing that you have in there is you've got scripts or suggested scripts, like for the front desk, right? Did you write those, John?
I wrote a lot of them, and I'll tell you a really selfish story that we had. Once we honed in on our call process, our to-do process, and the scripts and the follow-up text messages that were in there, we hired somebody on a Thursday. We trained her for about an hour, and then we just walked away for the weekend and went on our first vacation in a long time. And it was amazing that the staff member was able to walk through the flows and our suggested scripts and feel empowered to pick up a phone and make those calls, which I think is a really hard task to ask an hourly employee, is pick up that phone, make that call, be salesy. But she was able to do it. And she was not only able to read those scripts, she was able to understand what we wanted and then make that conversation her own.
Yeah.
So with minimal training, it was just amazing to see somebody take it to the next level over a 3-day period.
What I see, so last week you gave me a private training on your product. Yesterday I joined in with one of your clients and watched, you problem solve for them. And John, you get off on helping people solve their problems. Like, it is so your jam. And I introduced a client to you a few weeks ago, and what cracked me up was, while she was explaining her need for the front desk, the whole thing, while she was talking about it, you literally did it on the screen while she was talking live. And I think you finished the process before she finished explaining what she needed. Like, your brain just goes, okay, boom. But like, you have a very unique brain when it comes to your product and solving your clients' problems. But I just had to say, like, yesterday watching you do that with people again, like, you just are like, so excited to be able to put something in place for them that literally helps them so much.
Data excites me as much as helping people excites me. And I think the issue we had with prior solutions before Loopspark is they didn't leverage the full data set that was coming from our booking software. So while they could automate little pieces of what we needed, they didn't allow us to have that creativity to either pull reports that could help us communicate better with our customers when they were in our studio, or automate to the nuanced level that really sparks that interest to even cross-sell a member, right? Not just to keep them going on a linear path toward membership or retain them as a member, but to really try out different types of classes that we're offering, to try out different instructors, to try out different times of the day, to really explore our full offering more than attend this many times on our intro offer and buy this specific membership. It was more of a get further ingrained in our community. And how were we able to do that through automation? It was leveraging that full data set in Mindbody at the time. So I really do get off on that. And as you saw yesterday on our call, I really like to role play, which is an exercise I did with my staff all the time. It's just put on the shoes of a customer and think about how hesitant you might be to just take that next step, right? To come in for the first time, to come in for the second time, to commit to a membership. How does that feel as a customer that's struggling with temptations in life or distractions in life? And what type of messaging and when would you touch base with yourself to help yourself overcome that struggle? So I love getting in there and role playing with my clients. And first off, asking them really prodding questions, which I think every business consultant does. It's just, what are your KPIs? Do you personally know where your members are falling off? And if you don't, let's start there before we start talking about processes and then automating those processes.
I also found that you're very respectful as far as not jumping in giving advice. Like you're very good at demonstrating the product, solving the problem, but not giving advice, because you must be seeing every scope of the industry from behind the scenes, right? And so you see what works, what doesn't work. And I remember I was sitting there yesterday wanting to jump in with, does that intro offer work? And like just busting to jump in. So I just really respected that you sat back and didn't give business advice, but you just helped them with where they were at. But that must be hard sometimes.
It is hard. I like to speak from experience when I do jump into those conversations. We've tested everything from the 1 day, the 1 week, the 2 week, the second class free, the 1 month. And we do have a lot of data on what worked personally for us.
Yeah.
But that might not be the same in every market, for every modality, for every just culture in that specific studio. If I'm asked, I do give my personal experience. But as you said, I don't like to prescribe what is best, because there is no one shoe fits all.
Yeah. All right. So can we talk about what you are seeing right now? Because you deal with franchises, you deal with individual studios, you deal with some with multiple locations. So you are in the data and with the hands-on with those people, helping them. And so what are you seeing working right now?
As far as introductory offers?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with introductory.
Flows?
Yeah. Because there's been a lot of changes, I think, lately in the industry, with 3 weeks, 1 week, sometimes 2 weeks. And then there's also now a lot of people going to more the gym model of going direct to membership with a discount.
I see that quite a bit as well. I err on the side of less real estate in that introductory offer. Less time is better.
Less time.
However, that's different for every single modality, because there are some modalities where you jump on a bike, you already know how to pedal. After that class, if this is for you, you're not trying to figure out the technique so much. Where something like bar, after your first class, you usually walk out like, what was I doing? I couldn't even follow the instructor. I couldn't get my body in the right position. I couldn't figure it out. So I think the first class free or whatever it might be, discounted first class for bar, doesn't really do any justice. It's really after your second or third class where you feel confident, where you're following the instructor, where you're taking the cues. However, a full month of that, you might see some drop off. A member in their own head might already feel committed after a week. And now we're waiting 3 more weeks just to have that
Yeah.
membership conversation with them. So I think a week is a pretty good amount of time to have
If you
your
can get them
studio,
in.
if you can get them in, right? If you can get them in 2 or 3 times and you can prove 2 things. First, whatever you set out, the reason for you giving me your information and signing up, you're seeing those results, whether it's
Yeah.
strengthening your core, strengthening your confidence, losing weight, feeling more energized. You'll feel that after a few classes in a condensed amount of time, like a week. But you're also able to prove to yourself that your schedule permits for maybe
Yeah.
2 or
If
3
it fit, yeah.
hours to myself aside from my family or my other responsibilities. And I think that's enough data to help align that member with the correct membership type. One of the things that we stopped doing was throwing that 12-month platinum membership as the
Yeah.
first thing to our people that were expiring their trials, but we really took their own data and prescribed them what we thought would be a best first step. So if you were able to come in 2 times during that first week, 3 times during that first week, we might start you off with that 12-month commitment. We might also expose you to an 8-class or 4-class per month commitment. If you only came in 1 time, we might extend that 1 week a little bit further, or we might tell you about a 10-class pack and then try to convert you after you've come in a couple more times. So in just looking at our data, what's working best, in my opinion, shorter length of time. It's that 1 week.
Shorter length, but yes. So here's where your product kind of helps a little bit, right? So if the problem is, if somebody is purchasing, let's say, a 1 week pass, it's usually not a big investment, right? And so quite often, if it's $20, if they're $20, they're kind of like, oh, I didn't, okay, I lost $20. It's not a big deal. So the thing is, we need to get them in there 2 or 3 times in a week. That's why on all of my clients on their schedule page, because there's always the live embedded API schedule, but people don't think that way when they're looking at their life. They think Monday through Sunday. And so I always have my clients put a graphic schedule above that so that people can go, can I get in here 2 or 3 times a week? Because then that membership is value to me if I can. And so I think helping that process of them being able to visualize where it fits in their life. But your product will also, if they've purchased, you can trigger it off. So if they've purchased and haven't come, they can get a message or a phone call or a text. Or if they've purchased, not come back, you can trigger something off on that. So what are those things that you're looking for in that first week if you're doing a week? Those are the main ones I really look at.
So we're focusing on the automation, but I think there's a lot to say about just preparing your staff for that in-studio conversation.
Yeah.
An email is going to be informative. It's going to be pretty. It's maybe lengthy to read. A text message is a great way to spark a conversation and keep that conversation alive. But it's that engagement with your front desk, with your instructors, that personalized knowledge about each client that's coming in that I think really drives those sales. One of the things that my wife and I did, and this was time consuming back in the day, is we would pull myriad reports from Mind Body with the attempt of creating this daily digest each day. And our staff was trained to open that up every morning. And it boiled down to, here are the conversations you should be prepared to have today. When these people walk in, give them a high five, tell them happy birthday, happy anniversary of your first visit, these simple ways just to make people feel seen and known and loved. But also, these are the members that are coming in for their first class today that don't have a second class booked already. And that is a much easier conversation for the instructor while they're already giving them those endorphins pumping through them to say, hey, Michael, I hope you enjoyed your first class today. I noticed that you're not booked. How would next Thursday work for you? How would tomorrow at the same time work for you? And it's much harder to ignore that conversation when you're face to face, right? It's much harder for someone to say, I'll think about it. I'm going to walk out the door. It's more of a, tomorrow at 9:30 doesn't work, but maybe 11 would work. Can you go ahead and get me booked right now? Yeah. So I think these in-person conversations really 100%. Push the dial, and being able to prepare our staff in real time, which is the whole purpose of our dashboard, really drives that home.
Yeah. And let's take it a little bit further. The whole staff, if they're trained well, all towards the goal of getting more bums on mats, is even from the staff, the teachers, right? Hey, next week we're going to be working on this part of the body. Make sure you book before you leave, or see the front desk, or book it in your app, or something. But having it come from there and from the front desk and from the text and the automatic, but it is about getting those bookings.
I listened to one of your podcasts last week, and you were talking about the true superpower of a yoga studio is usually the talent of the operator, if it's a single operator, or other teachers. And that's very true. I think one of the tools that we don't leverage enough is the relationship between our instructors and the clients.
Yeah.
Because you can have the same franchise at two different locations, and it's a uniquely different experience based off of how well those instructors are running the class, but also the way that they're engaging with their members.
Yeah.
And that's something that we really wanted to harness, that we really wanted to invest in. So yeah, our instructors were the most integral part of operating our tool behind the scenes, but also leveraging it for those real-time insights and taking action on them when the members were right there face to face with them.
Yeah, I'm talking to my studio owners now and the front desk people about really making it a concierge VIP kind of experience. And I had an evening training with one of my studio front desks the other evening, and I met with the owner yesterday, and she just said, what a different, just having them have a new perspective on building the relationships, and just what a difference that has made for the experience of the clients coming in, and them also involving their students, their mega fans, getting them to show them around. And so I love that. The people part is so important. I love the fact that you really recognize that your product is about automations mostly, but you never lose sight of the people part and the community part.
Do you ever instruct the clients that you work with, for a member coming in for the first time, obviously gets that little hand-holding before their class starts and gets a tour and meets the instructor? Do you ever coach them to take that same new client and just introduce them to a few more people in the audience, people that live near them, people that were in their shoes for the first time as a hesitant first visitor?
Totally. More passing them on to a super fan, right?
Exactly.
So literally, usually when you're on the front desk, you're quite busy. And if it's just you as a solo person, but if you have someone there that knows everything about the studio and is someone that talks to everybody, and you say, hey, Julie, can you show, this is such and such's first time, can you show them around, and have them do it? Already they've made a connection in there. That person probably knows other people in there and is going to say, hey, this is such and such that's just joined, and showing them where the bathroom is. That builds community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most rewarding parts of, I think, opening the studio in a city that we'd never heard of before. It was unique. And we didn't have any friends. We didn't have any family. We did not know anybody. All of our friends starting out for the first few years here were clients of ours.
Yeah.
And seeing that little group of people that were all strangers at one point in time starting to get on group text messages and have bonfires at the beach and have happy hours, and still to this day, those relationships are fruitful, was really rewarding for us to jump into a place where there was no community of our own and build it and foster it.
Yeah. Speaking of community building, I just got an email this morning from one of our partners, Fit Degree, that they now have in their app, because they have a community feature in their app, and now they have it so that they can have conversations between teachers and students, and the whole staff can kind of be in there too. So
I am always impressed with that team, with that product. Yeah. They're a fantastic partner of ours. And I think the social aspect that they're touching on, and they have for a while, is unique. And it's what drives that kind of longer term commitment for that member. It's a lot harder to walk away from business A and try out shiny new business B if one of the things you're attracted to is the community, to the people that are in class with you every morning. So them really putting more time into that social aspect is a smart move. It's a unique offering. It's something that I always promote to people that are looking for different booking platforms. Check out Fit Degree. They're doing some interesting things for your members.
Yeah, and I'll say this because one of my favorite tech stacks is FitDegree and Loopspark, because for a little bit more than $300, you've got a booking system and a marketing machine. Like it is, I think your price of your product is extremely fair for what it does. And for about $450, you can also have an app. And so you're all in with FitDegree. I work with a lot of different software companies, but it is, if someone is looking for the full capabilities and a decent price point, it's a great stack.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And shout out to Nick and the FitDegree team over there. Yeah. They've been incredible to work with over the past few years, and just a unique angle from the typical calendar, scheduling, embedding, booking software. It's more of a, how do we help our studio owners keep that community alive? And a lot of what we do is, how do we keep that community tethered to us, the business, the staff, the studio owner? So we work.
Speaking
really
of that, John, I'm going to say I have spoken to many studios that will change software, but they will not change their marketing platform. And so,
I know,
right? So literally, it's like, I have everything built out in Loopspark is what I hear. And I will switch software booking platforms, but I'm not losing my Loopspark.
It's something that we were not expecting when we developed the tool, knowing that we are not the foundation of how the studio is getting paid. Right? We're not collecting those credit cards. We're not booking clients into class. We are not the main point that is necessary to operate a studio. We're ancillary on that side, but we're a very sticky product, because I think we show immediately how much value can come from these types of really nuanced communications and these really personalized touch points. And once you get used to that, you start to think, company B over here can also process credit cards, and maybe they have a more seamless experience for my customers to book or to view their data in their app. But I still want to keep Loopspark here, and I've invested in it, and I found out what works, and I've optimized it. So I'm only going to move if Loopspark integrates. And quite honestly, that's been a great conversation starter between us and other booking softwares. This person would be moving to you if we were integrated. Let's get that integration off the ground today.
Shout out to all the software out there. Open up to Loopspark, because it's just a great partner product.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome so much. What are you seeing problematic out there? What's going wrong out there? Are you seeing anything where commonly across the board kind of needs fixing in the industry?
I think in this day and age kind of thing, no. I think it's more of a seasonal issue that has not been carefully addressed, which is this large amount of attrition that we're about to see in the next month during the summer months when things are down. And how are studios keeping people engaged when they might be traveling, or they might be distracted, or they want to suspend their membership or cancel it. And we always see these seasonal peaks and troughs. And it's been an issue that I don't think has been addressed in a standardized fashion. And maybe it cannot be. I'm dealing with a lot of those questions right now with our customers. What can I do to fend off everybody canceling their memberships and trying to re-sign up for something in September? And I think it comes down to keep your audience warm at all times. People are not able to make it to your studio. Well, have something in the back burner where they can either on demand stream, or they can engage with your community in some form or fashion, or you're still able to keep them on your product lines if you're selling retail, but keep this time, the next 3 months, as a time where you're continuously communicating. But you can't let your community fall out, even if they're not able to come into your physical doors.
Yeah, and people can look through their data. I always say to my clients, the cycles of the year, they don't change too much. The summer goes down. People start after they've got kids back to school at Labor Day. There's these kind of cycles. But yeah, I have people try to look at the data and project out, really forward thinking, projecting out your year, and then planning those things where attendance is low. That's where you throw your bingo on or your challenge. But I find that people always put those on at January when you don't really need to in January. It's like people are really there. But if you're strategic about those and put those bums on mat things at low attendance times, that you're going to have a better job there. And same with sales. I see a lot of people doing reaction type of sales. It's, I've got to pay the rent next month. Let's do a sale. And so it's a constant sale. So that's a problem I see. But when you can project forward and go, okay, this is usually a lower income, then let's work before that to put a promotion on in that time and be really strategic about it. Could you use your product to do that?
You can. Yeah, you absolutely can. And our product in the end runs off of data. So you can analyze. We're a glorified database with a very niche application. You are able to predict who's going to be falling off at that point in time and make that careful decision on what do I need to do to keep them engaged. And like you said, I think a lot of reactions from studio owners come out of almost desperation. How am I going to pay month rent next month is at the forefront, and that's where they're making the decisions versus how is this going to affect me in 3 months from now?
Yeah.
And I talk to my clients a lot, the people that are just these chronic 10, 20 class pack, half off discounts, like that's going to help you pay your rent next month. But what is your revenue going to look like in September?
Yeah, it's not long-term.
It's not long-term at all. So I think it's keep your community engaged, focus on that. Don't ever discount your product. Your product is not less valuable. The experience you're providing in summer is not less valuable than it is any other month. It's just how do you make it more interesting, more enticing for somebody to make those sacrifices to at least come a couple times a week instead of fall off the face of the earth for a couple months.
One of the things I've seen you do in your demos with clients is you're really good at problem solving a class situation. So talk me through your thought process of your product here. I have a slow flow class, let's say Thursday night, 7:30 p.m., and I've got an attendance problem. What would you do to the process that you would go through to try and map out that client to market to for that?
There are a lot of different ways. I think it's who are we going to be marketing to? First and foremost, we don't need to market to the people that are coming to those classes.
Yep.
We don't need to deafen them with our message because it's something that's no longer relevant to them. But there are a lot of different ways you can slice and dice your audience.
I want in John's head here.
who is coming regularly? So there's that piece of friction that is no longer there. Who's coming regularly right now to my studio at any given time? So I don't have to break that, come back, have that conversation. But for some reason,
it's not a win back. We're just trying to.
It's not a win back. It's a cross sell. How do I get them to engage in this class time, this class type, this instructor? There's so many different ways to do that. And we've addressed this with automations through a number of similar conversations. Like, how do I get this person that has been coming 2-3 times a week over the course of a couple months to actually try this instructor the first time? Or if they only come for the morning, poke them with the text message and ask if maybe there's an afternoon time that would work for them if we were to add it to the schedule. Or if they're coming to 2 out of our 3 class offerings, but they're not trying the third for some reason, how can we automatically start that conversation so that our staff can take it from there and really ease that person into that class type, that new instructor, that down class time? I think there are so many unique ways that our data can paint that picture for us if we know how to use the data. And again, I think that is the unique offering of Loopspark is we're not just looking at simple trigger points or a small subset of the data from your booking platform. We're looking at it all, and we're giving our studio owners access to it all, access to really play with it all and leverage it all to either have these reports, have these insights, or more importantly, automate that conversation with their guests.
So with that, let's say that client, Thursday night, slow flow, we're going to try and fill that spot. Would you send them a text or would you send them an email?
I'd probably send them a text. I think there's something to say about the email as being a little bit more informative, which is cool. You might do both. You might introduce them to this powerful story about that class type. And that's easier done through an email. Here are people that come. Here's what they're saying about it. Here's why we have it. Here's why we think it's unique from the other classes that you're engaging and loving at our studio. That's an email. That's good. And maybe that exact same day, it's nice to have an instructor that you recently worked with reach out from a personal text message, which is why a lot of our texts leverage these merge tags, like either the instructor that taught the most recent class or the studio manager or the person that first ever taught your class or someone that you built a relationship with at that studio, really signing off on that text message, even though it's automated, really makes that customer think Michael's actually taking time out of his day because he thinks I'm interested.
All right, I got to process this one. So you would set that up so that it wasn't coming from the studio, it was coming from the teacher.
Always. How many follow-up text messages have you gotten over the years? Yoga studio, bar studio, whatever it might be. That's, hey, business name here. What did you think about?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's I'm not really building a relationship with your brand so much as I am the people inside of it. So I think it's much more poignant to come from, hey, Michael here with Yoga Biz Camp. What did you think about your first class today? I thought you were excellent. Can I get you booked for my class tomorrow?
Okay, so then the person responding to that is not the teacher.
It might not be.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to say, hey, John, it's Jessica picking up the conversation here. Michael told me all about your first class. And it's still...
What I do love about products like yours and other ones that start a conversation, that's the power. So I have one studio in Arizona that is killing it in conversations. Like I call it sales by chat. And it is very powerful when someone does respond to, hey, this is such and such from this studio. I just want to check in on how your first class was. And they come back and say, it was wonderful. The thing that breaks sometimes there is if there's 24 hours between responding. I see so many studios neglecting that part of getting back quickly, but the ones that are using that to keep the conversation and then guide that person to the right classes to support their goals, there's so much power in that conversation.
And I'm going to touch on two things here. One of them is texting is not new, right? Studios have had some kind of tool, whether it's their personal cell phone a lot of the times or a Google Voice number where they're texting back and forth. It's a little bit more manual, but they're usually limited to one device, one human being shielding those text messages. And if that individual or that device is not available, that customer is not going to get responded to immediately. That's going to be a big reason why we encourage everybody to make their staff a part of the Loopspark process, to create those unique accounts, to have those push notifications come to everybody's phone immediately so that somebody can respond and keep the conversation going despite when that conversation was left off by the client. That's a big part of it, but also have these conversations come into the Loopspark platform inside of the client profile that has so much rich data around it, and rich data that is presented in a way that's digestible and it's accessible on the fly. So that if you were to text back and my goal were to see what next class would be best for you, I have it there. I know what you've tried. I know what you haven't tried. I know when you can come into class. I know what types of packages you like to purchase or what types of teachers you like. I know all of that right there. I don't have to data mine in another platform. I can literally do it from my phone or from the computer inside that unified profile.
I do love your chat feature with the app because the owner or whoever's logged in actually gets can get notifications when there's a reply on the app. So it does make it a lot simpler for getting back to people quickly.
Yeah, you don't have to be married to a computer. Yeah. And a lot of the time, studio owners are not. And we're bouncing around all the time. We're in and out of our own studio. We're picking up our kids from school. We're dropping them off at summer camp. And that should not hinder the ability for you to keep working, to keep talking to your community, right? Or to have one of your staff members rest assured that your staff members are doing the same thing and have the same ability to respond to your customers there.
Yeah. John, we're going to take this to a close here, so I'm going to ask you a few questions. Something about you that most people don't know about you.
Wow. Can it be embarrassing?
Please.
Okay. Can it be the best thing I've ever gotten on Craigslist?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm curious
we're going
now.
down the embarrassing road. Yeah, my wife. How about that?
Craigslist?
Found found my wife on Craigslist as my first roommate when I just graduated college, moved up to New York City, took a chance with an NYU senior that had two available rooms, and my best friend and I moved in with her. And very early on in that relationship, I broke the cardinal rule, and I don't know how to say it, but I got a little bit more friendly with my roommate. And our relationship started out where I think most people hope theirs will end up, which is under one roof. So I've lived with my wife for 16 years now, and it's been incredible. And when people ask how we met, it's an embarrassing conversation to say Craigslist.
That's great. I love it.
So
I love it. And I love that you're on, I believe it's on you. I believe your love story is on your website, I think under the About Us or something like that. I think there's something on there.
it is. This
And
is
it's a big reason why you created the
project for
product.
so many reasons.
Yeah, I love
Exactly.
that. I love that. All right. What's your favorite business tool, website, or app other than Loopspark?
Interesting. This has changed over time, but quite honestly, I think ChatGPT is now, or any AI tool that can really serve the purpose as like another human being that's in the room, bouncing ideas off me. And
I
that's
love
one
it.
thing that I truly miss about being in the office setting is when I get stuck and I can't figure out what direction to go in. You can ask somebody a question, and even if it's not the right answer, it just sparks your mind and it allows you to
Yeah.
fill in the color from there. And ChatGPT does that for me. It is not the thing that I use to just write a full script. It's the thing that
Yeah.
puts me in the right direction. It's my compass so that I can say, oh man, I wouldn't have thought about that, but I'm really inspired by the thoughts that it gave me, and I'm going to take the conversation from there. So I use it for everything right now.
Me too.
Everything. Yeah.
I use it. It's such a handy tool. I have it open the whole time now. And I was with a client the other day that was doing a teacher training, and they had a Facebook ad all ready for teacher training. And it looked good. It sounded good, but the headline was shit. And so I'm just wrote a description of it into ChatGPT, come up with a headline. And it came up with one. We went, regenerate, regenerate, oh, bingo. And it was just so quick. It's so easy. I've had it do so many things for me. It's just crazy. Write a 7 email funnel sequence to lead people to listen to my podcast. And I'm using it with my clients live. Like they're talking about, oh, I'm stuck because I can't get this done. And they're talking about all these bottlenecks that they can't get around to. For example, writing a SOP for a front desk. I'm like, hold on, write a front desk SOP for a yoga studio. There you go modify it.
Yeah, and like you said, oftentimes I'm regenerating, Frankensteining what it gives me, taking little bits from here and here. And sometimes it's just a word that I would.
Yeah, I've been using it to
really cool describe.
I've been using it to write something, and then I'll say, okay, cut it down by 50% and change the tone to. And even for social media posts, write a social media post on this and include all relevant fun emojis and hashtags. Boom. It's fantastic. I need to do a workshop soon just for studio owners, how to utilize it in their business, because I'm using it with my clients all the time now.
I will be the first person to sign up for that workshop. Perfect. I would love that.
I think you're geekier than me, John, although I am a self-confessed geek. And personal fun app, website, tool.
Another embarrassing one is Words with Friends.
Okay.
Is probably my favorite. I'm not big on scrolling through Instagram. I don't go through those scroll holes at all. My family, my grandmother, before she passed, my aunt, my mother have been playing every single day for years. And there's a stranger that I met just through creating a game with somebody of your like skill who's 88 years old. She lives in Ireland. If she does not return a play to me, I get worried about her health. And I told her this about a year ago. You ghosted me for a week. How's everything going? Are you okay? Please touch base. And she was like, I've been on vacation. I'm so sorry. I didn't think about it. And since then, we have played every single day consecutively without missing a day for 270 days as of today. And it's
awesome.
just my stress. I'm not focused on anything other than trying to call people out for thinking of words that I didn't even know existed. I'm learning a lot of new things. I'm touching base with my family, which is awesome. I'll play my mom at 3 a.m. if I wake up, and she'll immediately text message me like, is everything okay? Why are you up so late? So it's just fun. It is from the app space. I'm not just going into a zone and going into social media. I really don't check Instagram or Facebook that much, but it's just a fun way for me to communicate back and forth with friends.
I do. That's my world.
Concentrate on that.
My audience.
You do?
My audience is on Instagram. Yeah. This morning they got a little video of me setting up my podcast in the bathroom. It's on my stories already. Behind the
my
scenes.
royal desk chair. That's awesome.
Hold on, I need to take a photograph of you on my toilet, John.
Oh man.
John, how do people find you?
How do people find me?
Not on Instagram.
John at loopspark.com. South Ponto Beach at Carlsbad. I'm always here if you're in the San Diego area. I'm the guy that's there with the crazy 5-year-old who likes to boogie board already, and we have bonfires all the time. You can find me on Instagram. I will message you back. I will like your posts. And the handle is John Egyptian, JOHNYGYPTIAN. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me in a lot of different places.
The main one is loopspark.com for your product. And
loopspark.com.
And
if you want to geek out with me for an hour,
yeah. So I do encourage people, if you're intrigued, if you have a platform that works with John's product, book a demo, just try the product out. Again, I'm not usually on this platform to promote software, but I'm a big fan of this particular software and a big fan of you, John. And so
thank you, Michael.
I want to thank you for coming on here. And if anybody books a demo, make sure that you tell John where you came from, Yoga Biz Camp podcast.
And letting me know that you're working with Michael, that you found our product through this podcast, it'll allow me to really shape the conversation and what our goals will be and how I'll help you navigate your journey, your learnings from Michael, and how we can help you bring that to life through our platform.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Enjoy the rest of your time in your bathroom.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
I'll let you go. Take care.
Bye. I work with 2 types of yoga studio clients to help them put structure and systems in place. Brand new yoga studios, this is the time to invest in a business consultant that can help you save money and time by not making the mistakes that so often happen. Get set up the right way once. And existing studios looking to put a better structure and systems in place, if you've got anything out of this podcast or any of the other podcasts with amazing studio owners, is that those systems give you freedom and way less stress. So start by heading over to my website, yogabizcamp.com. Click on the video at the top of my site, answer a few simple questions which will lead you back to book a no obligation, no cost booking with me and have a chat to see if I can be of help to you. Become one of the next generation of Yoga Biz champs. Again, that is yogabizcamp.com. If you enjoyed this or any of the other episodes, please take a moment to follow, like, and review. That little bit of effort means a lot to me, and it also helps this podcast greatly. Thank you.